Senator Shaheen just cornered FBI Director Kash Patel with questions that should terrify every American who values democracy when she pressed him on dismantling the FBI's disinformation task force, the very unit protecting us from Chinese, Russian, and Iranian attacks on our elections. His evasive answers revealed a chilling truth. Our defenses against foreign interference are crumbling in real time.
Thank you, Director. Senator Shaheen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Ranking Member Van Hollen and Chairman Collins, and thank you all for your nice comments. Welcome, Director Patel. The recently released 2025 Worldwide Threat Assessment identifies Chinese, Russian, and Iranian malign influence activities as continued problems that jeopardize U.S. democracy at home and leadership abroad. So I was concerned when I heard about the decision to dismantle our efforts to combat disinformation and misinformation, including the FBI-run Foreign Influence Task Force. So with the dismantling of this task force, how does the FBI intend to continue to combat malign influence campaigns, which is the threat identified by the intelligence community?
Thank you, Senator. To put it most simply, that mission set is something that multiple divisions in the FBI do 24/7, nonstop. That's been my experience since I got there. They've been, because of the malign influence campaigns and because of the prioritization on the intelligence apparatus to collect against them, we have been covering down on that as a priority one, nonstop. And so I see it every day in my briefings, I see it every day in the field, and I see it in the cases and indictments we bring. So I don't know that I can't speak to it before, but I haven't seen it slowed down since I was here.
Well, you gave an impressive list of some of the accomplishments of the FBI since you took over. There was nothing about disinformation and misinformation on that list that I heard. Is there anything that you have seen in the time that you have been at the FBI that would suggest that you're continuing to make inroads to address that issue?
In terms of faulty intelligence collection, ma'am?
No, I'm in terms of disinformation and misinformation campaigns by our adversaries that are being used to disrupt activities in the United States, to sow divisions, to undermine our national security, to undermine the security of American citizens?
Understood. I see that on a daily basis, the FBI adjudicating those matters based on the intelligence we receive and attacking the problem sets, not just here in the homeland, but abroad where they originate. And we are also using our cyber capabilities and our intel capabilities to thwart those adversaries' abilities to penetrate infrastructure, including social media, to put those campaigns on.
It would be helpful to get a briefing at some point about what you're seeing with respect to the ability to disrupt those campaigns that are going on in the United States. Along those lines, Congress passed the Foreign Agents Registration Act to help Americans better understand the sources of information and disinformation that we're getting from our adversaries abroad. Again, I saw that the Department of Justice will no longer investigate possible FARA violations outside of traditional espionage activities. So can you explain to me how you distinguish traditional espionage activities from FARA violations in those investigations? And again, in light of the 2025 threat assessment that still identifies those Russian, Chinese, and Iranian malign influence activities as a threat, doesn't this give a green light to those nations to increase their use of agents in the United States?
I can't speak to the disposition of the Department of Justice and FARA. I'll leave that to them. But what I can tell you when it comes to who opens cases and how, whether it's adversarial, foreign adversaries or anything on the homeland, the line agents in the field have their dialogue, and they simply open cases and investigations whether or not there is a legal and factual basis to do so. And based on that, the amount of cases and investigations we are currently running to thwart adversarial operations inside America and those that attack American facilities outside of America, I see on a daily basis. I have not seen a downtick in that whatsoever.
Well, again, I would appreciate a briefing
No
at
problem.
some point, and maybe the committee could request that. Let me just ask quickly a final question, because you mentioned the scourge of fentanyl in your opening statement, which we've seen too often in New Hampshire and across this country. And I wonder if you could speak to the activities to address what's happening with social media platforms, which is where so many people are getting fentanyl, and they're coming. People buy them thinking they're buying some other prescription drug, and what they get is fentanyl. So can you talk about what you're doing to address that?
Absolutely. I could talk about that for hours, but I'll try to do it in a minute. Just to put it in perspective, in these last 3 months versus the first 3 months of last year, the FBI seized last year 620 kilograms of fentanyl. In these 3 months of this year, we have seized 840 kilograms of fentanyl. That's enough to kill hundreds of millions of people. And specifically, we've taken to the streets in every single state, including New Hampshire, where we received 2,100 grams of fentanyl in these last few months. And what you highlight is one of the critical things that I'm focused on in how the distribution of fentanyl occurs to our children. And so what we are doing is using our online capabilities and our online platforms to offensively go after those that are fashioning fentanyl in a form that's appealing to our children. But the most important thing that I'm focused on when it comes to fentanyl, in that I launched when I first got there, is not just the narco traffickers that distribute the fentanyl here in North America, but no one's gone after the precursor companies and the production in mainland China. I launched that operation the first week I got there, and I'm working with our interagency partners on banking to shut down the precursors and our allied nations across the world that receive those precursors. If we shut that down, there's no version of fentanyl coming to America. So we're doing it from both ends.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome.
What Senator Shaheen exposed in this exchange wasn't just bureaucratic reshuffling, it was the systematic dismantling of America's defenses against foreign interference. When she pressed FBI Director Kash Patel about eliminating the Foreign Influence Task Force, his responses revealed a dangerous gap between what intelligence agencies identify as critical threats and what this administration chooses to prioritize. The 2025 Worldwide Threat Assessment explicitly names Chinese, Russian, and Iranian malign influence campaigns as unknown dangers to American democracy. These aren't abstract concerns, they're active operations designed to manipulate elections, spread disinformation, and undermine public trust in institutions. The FBI's Foreign Influence Task Force existed precisely because these threats require specialized, coordinated responses that regular field offices can't handle alone. Patel's claim that multiple divisions do this 24/7 misses the point entirely. Yes, various FBI units encounter foreign influence operations, but dismantling the dedicated task force eliminates the centralized expertise, cross-division coordination, and institutional memory needed to combat sophisticated state-sponsored campaigns. It's like saying you don't need a cybersecurity department because all your IT staff know about computers. When Shaheen noted that Patel's impressive list of FBI accomplishments included nothing about disinformation and misinformation, she highlighted a telling omission. For an agency supposedly prioritizing these threats, the silence speaks volumes. Either the work isn't happening at the level Patel claims, or leadership doesn't consider it worth highlighting. Both scenarios are deeply concerning. The Foreign Agents Registration Act discussion reveals another critical vulnerability. FORA requires foreign agents to register their activities so Americans know when they're being targeted by influence operations. The Justice Department's decision to limit FORA investigations to traditional espionage activities creates a massive loophole for modern influence campaigns that operate through social media, think tanks, and other non-traditional channels. Patel's response, that he can't speak to DOJ policy, but field agents open cases when there's legal and factual basis, sounds reasonable until you realize it shifts responsibility away from leadership. If the department signals that certain types of foreign influence cases aren't priorities, field agents will adjust accordingly. That's how institutional culture works. The practical implications extend far beyond Washington bureaucracy. Foreign adversaries study American responses to gauge what they can get away with. When the U.S. eliminates specialized anti-disinformation units and narrows FARA enforcement, it signals that influence operations carry reduced risk. That's an invitation for escalation. Shaheen's persistence in requesting briefings suggests she understands what many Americans don't, that foreign influence operations are happening right now, targeting everything from local elections to social media conversations. Without proper FBI coordination and DOJ enforcement, these campaigns operate with near impunity. The fentanyl discussion, while important, also reveals leadership priorities. Patel could discuss drug seizure statistics in detail, but struggled to articulate specific anti-disinformation efforts. It's not that fighting fentanyl is wrong, it's that a balanced approach requires addressing both physical and informational threats to American security. This exchange crystallizes a broader question about institutional competence and priorities. Are we dismantling critical capabilities because leadership doesn't understand modern threats, or because those threats don't align with political priorities? Either answer should concern anyone who values democratic institutions and national security. The stakes couldn't be higher. Foreign influence operations don't just target elections, they exploit social divisions, undermine trust in institutions, and create the conditions for domestic instability. When America's premier law enforcement agency reduces its focus on these threats, it leaves citizens vulnerable to manipulation by hostile foreign powers. Shaheen's questioning revealed what happens when political appointees encounter the complex realities of national security. Patel's evasive responses suggest either insufficient understanding of the threats or unwillingness to acknowledge the consequences of recent policy changes. Neither option inspires confidence in America's ability to defend against sophisticated adversaries who view information warfare as a primary tool of statecraft.